make sure it's running. Very good. Okay, so in this video, I'm just going to run you through the introduction of a reasonably simple method to do coal exposed. There's a couple of different ways to think about this problem, but yeah, let's get into it. So I've got a very simple version of the demonstration model that just has a single strip in the demo. It might help if I hadn't tested the theory. There we go. I just tested my theory before I did the video this time. So we've got a basic schedule here where my excavator comes through. It's taking all the waste on top of a given coal seam. In the main thing to think about in this video is when you have two coal seams. These are two different coal seams in my model. The blue and the purple are D and E seams. When you think about coal exposure, it comes down to, you know, is how much coal actually gets exposed in this moment when you clear the waste off. Do you expose just one seam? In reality, you probably want to report out both seams exposed. So what we're going to do is start by adding a coal exposed process. So we're going to add it in between the waste and the coal in this example. So I'm just going to add in a process called coal exposed. And I'm going to give it basically the exact same information that I'm using to schedule my coal. So I'm using imported, but you'd probably be using a scheduled or a ROM tons. We give it the same solids if you want to see it at all. I want to see it because I want to show you how it works, but in most models you probably even don't want to see it. You might want to untick the show and animation option. So we've added the process, that's part one. Part two is we need to add a piece of equipment that works the coal exposed. So coal exposed, and it will work the coal exposed at, I like to run these like magic pieces of equipment at 1 unit per second, which is basically what you do is you look at the value of the record, you this is an hourly rate, so multiply by 60 gets you a minute, and multiply by 60 gives you basically 1 record per second. So rather than putting in just an arbitrary like 9999999 number, this is just every single record will take 1 second. That's just personal preference. Okay, it's going to have a source path with allow advance on. Don't type it like me, use the right-click menu, and then an asterisk. And then after that, what we're going to do is finally touch on the dependencies. So dependencies are the trickiest part of this, and basically what you want to do is you want to still have some dependencies, but you want to be a little less strict on dependencies here than you are with your coal. So no process order dependency. Coal exposed is basically going to be treated as the first process on a coal record. So I'm going to leave the process order alone. And with the dig top down, a traditional dig top down, depending on what kind of dependency you're looking at here, is probably going to look a little bit something like this, or it might be simpler, but your successor processes are going to include all of your processes. We basically want to strip coal exposed out of the successor processes for any of these, because we don't want, I'll explain why in a moment, but we don't want coal exposed to be waiting on anything other than waste. So what I would do in this model is I would come in here and remove coal exposed from the successor processes if it's in here. If there's an all in the successors, I would untick coal exposed and leave it. And then that's the last thing that I need to do is just basically set up something that says that waste needs to happen before coal is exposed. And there's a specific reason for this, which I'll hopefully explain. I know that sequence dependencies are not easy for everybody to understand, but we don't add any filters in here, regardless of whether our coal is benched or not. And what this is going to do is basically say, if we have a look at a given block, like this one, in this block here, the sequence of tasks is from top to bottom. That's the way the sequence dependency has been set up. And then what's going to happen is that that coal there is not going to wait on the coal above, it's just going to wait on the waste above. And what that means is that basically once the last piece of waste is taken, then we'll have the opportunity to expose both seams of coal at the same time, as opposed to waiting for the coal above to get mined, which is not really, I mean, it's up to you how you want to treat your coal exposed. I can show you an alternative way to set it up. But the last thing I'm going to do is just reload my solids briefly, just so you can see, you should be able to see a bright green color for that coal exposed, assuming that I've set everything else up correctly. Might need to, there we go, solid colors. I shouldn't be seeing anything purple there. Let's just add one more color in here. May have discovered a bug to do with solid colors as a separate note, but we'll just do coal exposed in here. Okay, so there's my coal exposed in green. Run my schedule and make sure that the moment that the waste has been taken off of the coal, you see it goes from green, which is the color of my coal exposed, to the color of the coal seam underneath. And as we move along through these records, basically what's happening is the moment that we hit a record that has no waste in between the coal seams. So in this example here, there's a little thin pocket of waste, and so the coal underneath it is not exposed at the same time. But as soon as we expose this, we're only going to not expose records where there is an element of waste. So in this record here, if we hover on that for a moment, there's a small amount of eSeam waste. It's tiny, but it's enough for this dependency to still come into play, and that the rest of these records are unlocking the amount of coal exposed depending on whether or not there's waste in there. Now, if you wanted to only expose the exact record of coal, I don't know really why you'd want to, but if you did, what you would be doing is adding in the predecessor processes here, you would add the coal back in. And what that's going to do, I believe, is basically you're not going to be able to class the coal as exposed until the actual coal excavator comes in and clears it off. And it's a lot tougher to see because it's so quick. But the moment that the coal here is taken, that the coal is considered exposed. And so let's change that back. Go. And yeah, I mean, finally, there are other ways to do this. There are ways of doing more complex versions of things with data flows. I like this method because it doesn't involve data flows, and so therefore it's more accessible to people. If you wanted to have a look then at your reporting for this, you would see, if we look at process by month by quantity, you'll see that I expose a significant amount of coal before I actually take it, and in the same following seams, and that comes from the second set of exposure occurring later on. So that's it. I hope that was helpful. I'll reply to the person who was looking for that video, but otherwise, yeah, that's it. I'll leave you guys with it and probably have another one for you on Friday.